You see the countdown?
Yeah, it showed up on the screen
Okay.
whenever you hit it.
Cool. And like, I don't know, the audio quality, we'll see. The cool, I guess what's cool about this is like it does transcriptions and stuff. So like we can kind of talk about it and keep it easy. But
Okay.
anyways, so I'm trying to think how we could run this. Like pretty much just like, I'll just say, this, hey, I'm Peter and I got Wade with me on this call. And then we'll go into, I guess I'll kind of like introduce the topic, which would be, talking about drill baby drill, right? And then I'll ask some questions about it and then just, I don't know, trying to keep it, I'm trying to learn, I guess, is how I want to kind of frame it, right? And then we'll just color the commentary. I've never done this before.
Me either.
Okay, all
So
right.
this will be, yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, here we go. Great. Well, my name is Peter, and I'm here with Wade, and we're gonna just be doing a series of videos on the oil and gas industry. So Wade and I met through a mutual connection on Twitter, kind of hit it off in terms of just having discussions. And anyway, so Wade, I guess the thing that I wanted to dig into a bit more because I'm in California. The oil and gas market here is a lot different than the rest of the country. Talking to folks in Wyoming, Texas, Oklahoma, where you're at, it's there's different conversations that happen and like with my family, when they hear drill baby drill, right, from the current administration, it's kind of it kind of gets lost on us in California because we have our own set of problems. They're closing down, Valero's closing down their pipe, their refineries, and there's Phillips 66 closing one of theirs. It just has a different feel, right? We pay a lot more for gas, so we look at drill baby drill in our state and the normal person, my father-in-law was talking to him, and he's like, "Well, this is a good thing, right? It's going to help us lower gas prices." And obviously, it's a lot more complicated than that. So, I guess from your end of things, and on the engineering end, just kind of curious what your take would be on something like that.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I think there's kind of two sides to every coin whenever you look at it. And so, kind of on its face, you hear drill baby drill, some of the taglines associated with that are, unleash American energy and all that. And talking about America's energy independence, all of those things are amazing things. But, I think the underpinning purpose of a lot of that is making cheap energy available to the United States. And what's that going to do? That's going to go into our economic system here. And whenever you've got cheap energy, you're going to increase manufacturing. You're going to do all these different things. And so that's awesome for the consumer. The challenge is that whenever you talk about cheap energy, is that it's really challenging for the producer. So on our side, Oklahoma and Texas, and then even your producers out in California, we're starting to see oil and gas prices come down. And as those are coming down, the economics are getting really thin. And so on our side of that equation, you're starting to see what you're talking about right there is, Valero starting to shut down refineries. We're starting to drop rigs. We're pausing activity. And so where we're producing the oil and gas, it's really starting to affect us in the sense of job security and longevity here in the oil field. We've kind of been through this once before where we started to see, during whenever, the Republicans were in control last time, oil and gas prices went down and it cost a lot of people their jobs. And so, we kind of, drill baby drill, like we love the outcomes of it in terms of energy independence and all that. But on a very real and personal level, it can affect our pocketbooks and our livelihoods in a very tangible way.
I gotcha. Like in some of the stuff I'm reading, like looking to these new drills and stuff conversations I've had and like they're kind of basing everything off of like $50 a barrel, right? So it's like that's kind of that's the bottom mark and saying okay, we could be 15, 20, 30% profitable on this new drill at $50 a barrel. That seems to be kind of the number that everyone's talking about. I mean, from our phone call like last week, I think we were talking at even above 60, it's still challenging. So, like, is there a threshold or a band that is like obviously if there's a point I'm sure where it's too high and there's probably a point where it's too low. Like, is there a happy medium or how does that work?
Right. I everything is really basin specific, and even within those basins, you've got different acreage. So you've been on Twitter, you probably see everybody talk about tier one, tier two, tier three, the kind of or there's a lot of marketing out there that they talk about core of the core. So it's so funny because as you go across the United States, the economics for each basin just vary wildly. You start getting into the Northeast and you're getting into really gas heavy basins, like they're not going to be affected right now by the oil price. But down in the Permian, they're definitely feeling the crunch and you're starting to see, a lot of the tier one stuff has kind of been drilled and they're starting to work out to the fringes a little bit. And those fringes just don't work at lower prices. And so $50 a barrel is really going to affect them really big down there. And so you're going to start seeing rigs lay down, and just kind of the follow on to that is all the service companies feel the crunch, and it's really challenging. Every basin is a little bit different just in terms of their mix of their production profile, whether it's oil or gas or NGLs. And then on top of that, the pricing makes it just makes it really difficult. But you throw out a $50 a barrel blanket statement, I think that's really challenging for rig activity to remain.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, everything is definitely it's based on like location. Economics is a little more complicated than I think what some of the kind of the armchair conversationalists will have.
Well, I think you find that in most industries, right? Like blanket statements, or you know what I mean? Like it sounds great, and everybody's thinking, "Oh, $50 a barrel." Somebody says that, it's like, "Oh, that's great," But I think the reality of it's very different depending on where you're at and who you are.
Well, hey, Wade, thanks for jumping on this morning. I know we've both got things we want to jump off and do, but this has been great. Yeah, excited to maybe have another conversation next week. But yeah, have a great. It's Wednesday already, so have a great Wednesday. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, Peter.